Welcome back to College Football Addiction. We're going to talk a little bit about this Oklahoma-Auburn game with Jay from Unfair Sports. Appreciate BetUS for their support and helping us out with this video today. Jay, a tough one last week with that Tennessee game. We don't have to spend a lot of time on it. I know there's frustration, but just some high-level thoughts, takeaways, and then we'll talk a little bit about Auburn.
Yeah, the offense is abysmal right now. We're still trying to find our true identity. We've had to make a quarterback change. As you all have seen, Michael Hawkins Jr. came in, the true freshman out of Frisco, Texas. His dad, Michael Hawkins Sr., played cornerback for Brent Venables at Oklahoma. He started as a true freshman. And so, of course, dad is very excited that his son gets to follow in his footsteps on the opposite side of the ball, but also starting as a freshman. And so, we've got to figure out this offense, right? The defense showed that they can do it. They caused a lot of problems for Tennessee, and Tennessee had to change up a little bit of their game plan to mitigate any risk for the rest of the season. And we saw that, right? We saw that Oklahoma can really play with the big boys on the defensive side of the ball, especially with Tennessee being a high-powered offense. Got to keep it a buck. Tennessee, sure, this SEC school, Josh Heupel is coaching them. Josh Heupel came from Oklahoma, but at the same time, TJ, keep this in mind. Josh Heupel runs similarly a former Big 12 offense, right? High power, high speed, or whatnot, but he's done a good job establishing a defense. And so the OU offense struggles. They're going to figure it out. But the OU defense, I think, is legit.
Yeah. I'll tell you what was so disheartening, and I talked about this when I did a recap. I thought this while I was watching it live. I thought this on the rewatch. It was so disheartening. And you mentioned the offense, like not to pile on, but to watch them give the ball back twice after Oklahoma had given it to him, after Tennessee had given it to Oklahoma. It just didn't one time on the 5-yard line, sheesh. The other time around midfield, not as good, but you have the backwards pass and then he fumbles it back. You give it back to Tennessee in just such prime field position. It felt like it was going to be tough anyway, just kind of from the start, because you kind of felt like Oklahoma's offense just was probably not going to break through, and they really didn't until really late. But man, when those two turnovers happened, it just felt like, man, this tall mountain that we have to climb has to get it just got 15 times higher. And to me, I don't know what you felt, but to me, not to be dramatic, it felt like the game was over there. Like, it just felt like, well, if that's not going to happen, I just don't see a path for Oklahoma unless some just crazy stuff happens at this point.
Yeah, Michael Hawkins is going to have to bring a massive spark into this, right? Like, at this point, you can't play Jackson Arnold. Like, he's completely rattled. Something about him right now. He is not at the point where it looks like he's even comfortable running the offense. And it's crazy because we're still trying to figure out, where in the heck did the Jackson Arnold as a true freshman go to? Where did he disappear to? Was he? I mean, we just don't understand how the decision making isn't there. It's really him needing to make the choices of making the passes or handing the ball off, and it's been a lot of the wrong ones. And so we're hoping that he get his mentals together and go. But if Michael Hawkins can give us a big spark, man, there's a good chance that this team could bounce back and at least have a decent season. The good thing is like I said, the defense is what's going to carry them. I've been preaching that since January because I knew all the stuff on the offensive side was going to be so new.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's going to have to happen. And if the defense can continue to do this, they're going to cause problems. But at the same time, the defense is going to get tired at some point. We've got to capitalize when you get 2 fumbles, right? You force a fumble at the 5, guys. That's a touchdown, period.
It has to be 7 points.
That's 7 points. That's game. That to me, if Oklahoma capitalizes on their 2 turnovers, this game is exactly the score I told people was going to be, around 28-24, something in that. I was thinking a 4-point game the entire time. You capitalize like you're supposed to. You got it. At least get a field goal. Darn.
We will get right back to chatting with Jay, but first I do want to give some love to our friends over at BetUS. Appreciate BetUS for their support. Make sure that you're using our code, YouTube150. That's YouTube150. It'll get you a 150% deposit bonus on your first deposit. Your next 2 deposits, your second and third, are 125% bonus, and all of that is up to $2,000. So if you want to deposit a few times, you can still keep getting that bonus over and over again. We appreciate BetUS for their support. They've got great lines, great customer service. You will not be disappointed by betting with them this college football season. Yeah, you give Oklahoma the 7 points there, and you take away the 7 points that Tennessee scores off of the other fumble. and it's right there for you. Like
Yeah,
as
it's a
bad
game.
as it
It's a
was,
game.
it's right there for you. But you're right. The defense will keep them in games, but eventually the defense gets worn out, and just mentally,
Yes.
imagine giving how do you even go out there back and play? And you do, because they're young and they're not old like us. But like, how do you even go back there and play after you give your offense the ball on the 5 and you're like, here you go, it's silver platter, and then the very next play you're right back out there? Like, emotionally, that just has to be tough. Now, I mean,
Yeah.
they're maybe a little more well equipped for it, being Division I athletes, unlike us, but still emotionally, like, that's tough. So
It's deflating. It's deflating, TJ, when you see the players deal with that. And honestly, most of the time when a team gives up a touchdown, when a team gets a turnover and the ball gets right back to the offense, you will notice the defense usually looks deflated. They're like, we did all that work for nothing.
yeah.
And then there's a missed it or busted play that leads to a touchdown. It happened to us earlier this season, right? You get a play, the offense doesn't produce, and then the defense is right back out there, and then they have a mental error because that weighs in on them. They worked their butts off. All they're asking for is the opposite side to provide their portions, and we'll see if Michael Hawkins can be that spark that's needed to get everybody's butts lit up.
So when we looked at this game in the preseason, we probably thought that Peyton Thorne and Jackson Arnold would be the quarterback. Certainly not what we're getting now. Maybe that's a little bit of a comfort. I mean, you're going into Jordan Hare, which crazy things happen there, and just wild, magical type stuff that should never happen at any stadium, but it somehow always happens at Auburn. However, playing a team that has just as many, if not more, issues than you do has to be somewhat of a relief before the really heavy part of the schedule sets in.
Absolutely. This is probably the best thing that happened to Oklahoma is that they're now playing Auburn. Like, to me, I told everybody the Tennessee game, I was happy we were playing them early, right? Because I think in November they blow us out. And I'm just going to be honest there. I think that, especially with the woes that we have, and if the woes don't get fixed, I felt like Tennessee is going to be a problem late time. Nico's going to be elite next season. Just brace yourself. He's going to take the SEC by storm even more than he already is. But this Auburn team, man, they're just bad. They do a really good job of giving the ball back quite often. I was talking to some guys from Auburn fans, and they're just like, yeah, we just keep turning the ball over and over and over. And that's the one thing that Oklahoma's defense likes to do, get turnovers, right? We don't have a lot of picks, but we lead the country in fumble recoveries at 8. I mean, we like to cause fumbles. And so the way that these players hit, they're very physical, they're very fast. And so for us, honestly, it's going to be once again leaning on the defense. And again, of course, we're going into Jordan Hare. I totally understand the mythology behind it, but they just lost to Cal at home as well as Arkansas. I don't, and then they lost to a 4 acronym team last year, New Mexico State. Told me everything I need to know about them, right? I don't have any high expectations for us offensively in this game, but I have very high expectations defensively. So for us, our defense needs to pick up the Sooner Magic and go in there and obliterate them, period.
Yeah, it would, I'm not super concerned about this game for Oklahoma. But if they were to somehow drop this, I think the alarm bells would be ringing like crazy. Like, people would be, I don't know how bad they're melting down against Tennessee. Like, I think they kind of understand the plight. If they were to lose to Auburn, I feel like people would just be on a different level of melting down. That said, is there anything that Auburn does that does somewhat worry you? I know they're not a great team. I know they lost to Cal. I know that, there's not a ton of concern, but like, is there something that maybe concerns you a little bit about them?
Jaquez Hunter is a really good running back, right? Whenever he is able to get going, I mean, he did well against New Mexico, but the big problem for him is that his quarterbacks like to give the ball away. If they can figure that portion out of not just turning the ball over a lot, their run game their defense is pretty solid as well on their best days. We're seeing them getting turnovers and causing problems, but if anything, man, the big thing for Oklahoma to prepare themselves for is that run game. I do like Auburn's running back room. But the one thing that Oklahoma's really good at, though, they got a really good run defense, right?
Yeah,
Tennessee
they
averaged
slowed Samson for sure. They did it great against Tennessee's run game, which is better than Auburn,
Tennessee
but it's not even close.
right. Tennessee averaged 336 yards rushing this season a game. A game. Over 650
So,
yards in total offense. They got 345 against Oklahoma. And to be honest, they would have had less if we weren't giving the ball back every time we got the ball. So, that's a frustration, but I digress, TJ. Our run defense is our strength.
yeah.
Biggest strength. Our linebackers love to hit, and they fly when they hit. So in that case, all we got to do is make sure we continue to be good at that. I think the secondary do a really good job of stealing passes from Auburn. And I don't want to sound overconfident. We should be able to walk in there and score more on defense than they score on offense.
Yeah, put them away early. Take the crowd out of it. Take the magic out of it. Not a lot of magic that can happen when you're down 21.
Nope.
This is, certainly a must win. I think it will be a will win. But then it does get tougher. What are your thoughts? Just real big picture. You don't have to break down every team, but a couple weeks after this, Texas, Ole Miss, Alabama still on the schedule. Even the easy games, if you can call them that. Missouri didn't look great against Vandy. LSU hasn't looked incredible yet to start the year, but South Carolina maybe a little better than you were expecting. Like, there's still a lot on this schedule that you're like, whew, this is the SEC. So, do your expectations for the season, have they somewhat shifted? Do you still kind of feel the way you did before the year, or what are your thoughts just big picture on the rest of the year?
I'm still heavy on my original predictions for the season, right? Like, I think that this team, regardless of my homerism here, I do think this team is capable of getting close to 10 wins, 9 to 10 wins this season. I think they're capable of it because of the defense, right? If we have a halfway competent offense, this is funny, TJ. Let me tell you this. If you asked an Oklahoma Sooner fan about having a competent, complementary side of the ball for like the last 8 to 10 years, it'd have been like, man, if we had a competent defense, we would have won a lot more games because the offense did everything. We are on the opposite side of the spectrum, and I would have never guessed that we would be here. And so for me, if we just have a competent offense, it doesn't need to be explosive. It doesn't need to do wild things. All it needs to do is whenever the defense causes a problem, score points. Field goal, touchdown. Doesn't matter. You can go all field goals. We don't care. But it's when the defense makes stops and you score right afterwards every time, this team can win a lot of games. So going up against Texas, as explosive as a team they are, I think our defense can handle them, right? The question is will our offense be able to be halfway competent in preparation in that game, right? We'll find out this week with Michael Hawkins Jr. at quarterback. I anticipate him starting. We'll see what he can do. We'll see if the running backs, if everybody rallies around him, if the offensive line decides that the 14th installment of a new offensive lineup decides that this is the one that's going to work. We'll see if that helps them. If that does, man, Oklahoma's got a good chance of still sticking around the 9-3, 10-2 type win. Because I think that Texas is going to be a problem. Ole Miss is going to be a problem. And I think that Alabama is probably the other problem in here. South Carolina, the big thing with them is Lenore Sellers has that ankle injury. If he's healthy when we play against him, could be a struggle. Their defense, I think, is pretty solid. Shane Beamer's done well. But I think our defense will give them nothing but problems on the offensive side. Ole Miss is going to be a big challenge. I think Texas, Ole Miss, another massive challenge. I don't think Missouri is going to be too big of an issue. I think that with Missouri, the big thing is if we get them defensively, I think our offense can do enough because I don't think their defense is all that great. We just watched them almost lose to Vandy in overtime, and they struggle against Boston College. And these are both home games. This isn't on the road. These are home games. So getting down to Alabama, right? Alabama's been, they've been pretty fairly consistent, still trying to work out the kinks and bugs of the DeBoer era, and LSU's basically cooked. That's just all you can say about them, right? You just lost Harold Perkins for the year with a torn ACL. Caden Durham's doing well as a freshman running back. Wanted him to come to Oklahoma, but, it's another story. But their pass game hasn't been looking all that great like you would have wanted, even though Lacey and Nussmeier connects well. Their defense is awful, and you can tell. It just looks bad, and it's getting worse every week. So for us, we can go out there and we can win at least one of those two big time games. That's like I said, it's a 9-3 season, right? And you sweep the rest of them. There's a chance. I just need to see what the offense looks like. So to me, I'm not going to get off of my prediction until I see what Michael Hawkins does against Auburn, and then at that point, I'll have an idea.
Jay, where can folks find you? Where can they get more of your content?
Yeah, I'm talking OU ball, SEC, as well as college football in general over at Unfair Sports here on YouTube, as well as wherever podcasts are downloaded and listened to. Thanks for having me, TJ.
Yeah, I'll ask you this too. You said you expected this to be a blowout or maybe kind of run away with it. I don't know if you used the word blowout or not, but what's your score?
Not blowout.
What you got?
I think they cover the spread. The opening spread was -4 on Circa. I think ESPN Bet and BetUS has everything sitting at like a 2.5 right now. I think Oklahoma covers that, wins it by probably 3. I'm gonna say it's gonna be an ugly, ugly game, 13 to. Actually, you know what? I think it'll be 13-10. We'll go with that.
Yeah, I like you guys to do a little more offensively. I think it'll. I think you guys might win this thing going away. Figure something out on offense, and Auburn just implodes. We'll see.
Yes, guy.
I just like watching Auburn implode ever since that 2013
Same.
game. So appreciate BetUS for their support. Appreciate Jay for hanging out with us. You can check him out over at Unfair Sports. We appreciate you, man. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks a bunch.